Hello, friends. It's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another little Show Me How You Practice video. Now, this is going to kind of not be solely focused on just one particular practice that I do. It's going to really talk about a lot of different things that I do to kind of help me whenever I feel like I'm overthinking or my anxiety is really high or I'm kind of struggling with finding some mental peace. And as someone that is, actively living in the United States, the last few weeks have been pretty intense. And I think so many of us can agree that there's been a lot of just weird energy. We're all kind of just trying to struggle to figure out what comes next in a lot of ways. So I know for me personally, because of some of the things that I also have going on in my personal life, I've really been struggling to kind of find and keep that mental peace. So because of this, it also makes it a little bit more challenging when I am trying to divine for myself or trying to focus my energies on what I should be doing on my path. And so I wanted to kind of talk about a few practices that help me feel a little bit more connected, that feel more digestible, if that makes sense. I think the biggest thing whenever we are feeling confused or lost or overwhelmed or anxious is that we want a solution. We want an answer. We want something that is clear. And as much as I hate to kind of say it, sometimes when we're not clear with ourselves, the guidance isn't going to be clear either. And so we have to kind of scale it back a little bit. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things. About 6 weeks ago, almost, or a little bit over a month ago, I was let go from a job that was very stressful to me, that I had been in consideration of resigning anyways. But the thing was, because it was something that was financially stabilizing for me, I was trying to wait until I had something else lined up before I kind of moved into the next thing. Unfortunately, that's not how things kind of shook out, and that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm okay with it or anything like that. I'm learning to accept it at the current moment. And while I am still mentally kind of struggling with the fact that I am still without full-time employment, one of the things that I've been really trying to do is kind of focus on writing. So this is like my shadow work journal. I've done different shadow work challenges, and then I would just kind of write. So I had like these shadow work journal prompts, and then I also had this 31-day shadow work challenge card a day that I did earlier this year, I believe, or maybe last year. That really helped me. So I had the questions written down, and then I was kind of writing them down. Yeah, I did this last year. Writing down kind of what I was connecting to with each of the cards. So if that is something that you really enjoy for shadow work, that is a great thing. I think it's nice to sometimes have something that can give you a prompt to connect to and to kind of feel like it's a little bit easier to focus on one thing. So whenever my emotions feel very overwhelming, or I'm just extremely anxious or overthinking and nothing really feels super clear, it's nice to have a prompt to kind of focus on, and then I can just focus on that one area. But another thing that's really been helping me is just kind of writing where I'm at, getting it out on paper, especially like frustrations, things like that, kind of feeling inadequate in some ways. I have been putting that in my shadow work journal as well, because I feel like that's also a really important part of shadow work, is recognizing and realizing what you're actually feeling, what you're truly feeling, and doing it in a way that doesn't feel encapsulated or feels like it has to be something that is like pleasurable for other people to consume, if that makes sense. And I know in this society, especially online, with other people that do this kind of work, we, want to kind of show you what it looks like when we're on the other side. And one of the biggest things for many of us is whenever we're in that dark liminal space of not really knowing what happens next, we can feel like we're doing it wrong. And so I feel like doing some sort of shadow work and kind of really being honest with yourself, reflecting on different things. A lot of the questions that this little shadow work challenge card a day thing had, a lot of these questions were really hard for me to kind of sit with. And I also have like shadow work journal prompts. I have another one that's like inner child prompts as well on my website that's free. I've been doing like a daily card reflection too. So I try to kind of come at it from different angles and try to understand different things about myself. So other things that have helped me feel a little bit more connected to my practice, and maybe practice is a word that a lot of people use for just like their magical things. But to me, my practice is like everything. I think everything that I do is a part of my spiritual practice. What I eat, what I do, what I focus on, what I consume. And I mean consume in all ways, like what I'm drinking, what I'm eating, who I'm around, what sort of energy am I allowing into my space, what I am, imbibing in, whether it's like media and entertainment, things of that nature. I feel like that is all consumption. And another thing is like, I don't just look at me pulling cards as my practice. I think it's a part of my practice and my spiritual kind of like belief and my connection to everything else that I do. So this is why I do love doing shadow work. I do love using cards, but I also like to add other things that are creative. I think during these times, that's what we can really lean into, is a creative kind of output in some way. So I was feeling very anxious last night, and I decided, let me just like doodle, and then I'm going to color it, and I'm just going to kind of make something out of the restlessness that I have in my mind while I'm trying to kind of work out certain details, while I'm trying to figure out like what comes next, what I should be doing. So in my manifestation journal, I like to just do little things like this where I'm just kind of adding in my own doodles. I like to, kind of create something, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not like something I would hang up on the wall or whatever. I used to love like drawing mandalas and things like that. Just coloring in some way, shape, or form. There's something that, is so soothing about those repetitive things that I think is just so beneficial for those of us that maybe struggle with, prioritizing creativity, because it's not maybe like, it's not always going to be something that like, you're like, oh, I'm going to make money off of this or whatever. So here, I mean, this is just an example of little things that I have like created over the years, just little quotes and reminders, coloring, kind of adding things together. And then I just kind of cut everything out and collaged it into one thing so that I would have these reminders. So it's just things like this that I feel are also wonderful ways of dealing with your emotions whenever you're feeling a little bit out of sorts. So I always recommend to people, I'm like, if you're feeling very like disconnected from yourself, then maybe it's time to kind of like reconnect to who you are and like what you want and what you need. So things like that are also fun to me because it allows me to express myself creatively. I love the happy planners. I have several of them, as you can tell, and I do reuse them. So, I'll do things like where I, again, kind of collage art my planner and kind of just do things that like speak to me, whether that's just like temporary little pieces that I put in here, stickers, things out of magazines or whatever. And I just think it's great because it's like all these little different elements allow me to kind of put things that matter to me in a space that I'm constantly kind of going through as a reminder for myself. So I think it's good to have some sort of creative practice that allows you to connect in some way to different things that you have, as well as like writing affirmations, kind of reminding myself of, who I am and what I need. So I think for a lot of us, we tend to forget that it's okay to, kind of connect to that energy a little bit more and kind of remind ourselves like who we are and what we're doing. So another thing I've been kind of trying to be a little bit more consistent with and haven't really been doing, but I have seen other creators on here that have been doing this, and I just really admire the fact that they can do so, even though I can't say that it's for a lack of time because I've had the time, is daily card reflections. So I've been focusing on a list of specific questions and kind of using that to help me connect a little bit more so that it doesn't feel so daunting to just be like, well, what am I supposed to, do with this? So I've been just kind of writing down the question, talking about what card I pulled, kind of like the different keywords or different aspects that are kind of sticking out to me, as well as like what I'm seeing there. I talk about the imagery, the initial impressions that I have, the emotions that I'm picking up on, whether they're my own emotions that like I'm kind of sensing in the cards, because some of the cards have like more emotional pull, if that makes sense. And then I kind of talk about like whether I feel like this answered my question or not, some advice or action steps, in my daily life to kind of keep in mind. So again, I haven't been consistent with this because I stopped on the first, and here we are. I think, yeah, the last day I did it was the first. I have been pulling cards every day, but not for this specific thing. And it's not that it's not that I haven't had the time. I think that this is also a great way to connect to your tarot decks if that is something that you've been struggling with, because it gives you an opportunity to kind of look at the imagery, look at the initial impression, go over the emotions, talk about the advice or action steps in reflection for you. So obviously, as you can tell, I've been more focused on career because I'm trying to figure out what comes next. What should I do next? What does this next chapter look like for me? Because I'm at a little bit of a precipice of trying to figure out if I need to continuously look for regular employment through like an external force, or kind of starting my own thing, other than like my little business of doing readings and things like that, but maybe something that is more service oriented here where I live. So it's just been very interesting. So I don't really know what I'm going to label this video. I just wanted to talk about like how I practice and things that kind of have helped me to feel a little bit more divinely connected in my spiritual practice, even when I'm feeling overwhelmed, even when I'm feeling lost, even when I don't really know what comes next. It's good to have different coping mechanisms, so to speak, that can allow you to feel like you can still have that connection without feeling frustrated if you're not seeing things quite so clearly. Because I just feel like a lot of us, when we're doing readings or whatever, we have a question and we want to answer. But as anyone that maybe has been living for a little bit longer can attest, life doesn't always give us a clear yes or no. It's not always going to feel like exactly how it should. A lot of the time, many times we are operating out of, I just need this need to be met in order for me to figure out what comes next. And I know that can be really disappointing and challenging whenever we're in the middle of the crossroads or feeling a little bit confused as to like what comes next and what we should do next. But having these daily practices, or even just adding something similar into your spiritual practice, I think will allow you to really start to discern what is intuition, what is like, wishful thinking, or, wanting something to be a certain way. Because a lot of us, we do get distracted by that. We want something to be the way that we are wanting it to be versus like how it actually is. So let me know what you guys do if it comes to any sort of journaling, any kind of writing. What do you do for your kind of daily card reflection stuff? I do pull cards every day. I don't always sit down and journal about it. So I'm trying to be more consistent with myself on that, because I do feel like it's very helpful to kind of understand how I'm reading that energy that day, and then kind of coming back and looking at it and be like, oh, maybe that wasn't how I needed to utilize this card. So let me know what you guys think about this video. I appreciate you guys watching. I don't know if I'm going to share too many more of these sort of videos. I just think that they're a lot of fun. I don't know if like utilizing tarot spreads or how I read cards or whatever, if that's something that you guys are interested in seeing, and kind of what I do when doing a reading or whatever. I mean, I can totally, do that. And maybe explore how to share that, as well as like, how I dress and fix candles for myself, because that was something I just recently did. And I have another one on the wings that I need to kind of set up and get ready for to have going. So I hope you guys are good. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.